Hey guys! I said we were gonna do a story time, so that's what's happening. Here we are. I'm not gonna lie, I had a pretty hard time coming up with a topic. It's not that I don't have any juicy gossip to squeeze out of my life lemon. The hell is this analogy? But most of it was just either way too difficult to stretch into an engaging story, or it's way too personal and fresh. Sometimes, instead of an unforgettable experience full of fun and self-discovery, your first time moving out is two infestations at the same time and a never-ending interpersonal nightmare. I might talk about it later, and by later, I mean in years. Anyway, I figured this little anthology would be a nice appetizer to hopefully more of these in the future, because I actually really like doing these, so tell me if I'm good at this, I guess, and you guys want to see more of them. This should be fun because I went to a lot of schools, like literally 9 different schools, if you count nursery school and my 2 colleges. I was a military kid. Anyway, let's jump right in there with the time I managed to get suspended from my nursery school. Nursery school, by the way, is ages 1 to 3, like preschool. I actually worked at a nursery school for a little bit. So if you guys want to hear stories from that, I'm totally down. Obviously, I'd have to change all of the names because I can't. Yeah, the privacy of the children. But yeah, I was in the public school system as early as possible because my mom is a teacher and my dad wasn't even on the same continent. So during this time, to be fair, I was a little shit. I remember biting a kid over a paper towel once. But to be fair to me, most of the times little me got in trouble, other than that one cheeky little girl rage moment, it was because I had to deal with being hyperactive and not understanding common sense things. I'm autistic and I have ADHD, which no one knew at the time, but it's actually really funny watching old videos of myself because I always am just like, oh yeah, well, you know how it is. AFAB hyperactivity usually looks different than AMAB. But no, straight up, just every freaking picture and video I'm in, I will not stand still or shut the fuck up. I don't know how the hell everyone missed this. Like, I had so many ample opportunities for someone to be like, okay, something's up with this kid. So something that would happen pretty much every day was that I wouldn't go down for a nap. I've always hated naps. I still hate naps, actually. Everyone always jokes about being like, no, naps, as a kid, and then being like, fuck yeah, as an adult. But that has yet to happen to me. Every time I fall asleep during the day, I wake up feeling like I entered a portal to another reality and am mentally disoriented for like an hour. Around this age, my aunt would take care of me a lot while my parents worked, and whenever she put me in a room to take a nap, I would just stay up reading little critter books or screwing around. One time I forgot I was supposed to stay quiet, and my aunt stormed in on me standing on the top of the bedpost with my hands on the ceiling, screaming the ABCs. I got in huge trouble, because my little cousin was trying to sleep, and he was like an infant at the time. At home, I was fine, so long as I didn't pull any of that crap like a dumbass, but at school, they actually walked around and made sure that you were actually asleep, which I think is stupid. I mean, who the hell cares? I'm just quietly playing with my hands. It's not like I'm keeping anyone up. If I couldn't sleep, which was always, they wanted me to stay perfectly still because otherwise I wasn't, quote, trying, and I was, quote, distracting the other kids, which, no the hell I wasn't. They weren't even looking at me. They were asleep. That was obviously like torture, so I was in trouble all the time. I was even sent to the principal's office a few times when I really effed up, not fidgeting or stimming non-disruptively. The last time I went to the principal's office, they were so frigging mad. I don't even know why. I don't remember what I was even doing that time because it was almost 20 years ago. I think I probably actually started back-talking that time because that totally sounds like something I would do, not gonna lie. There were 3 adults in there, the principal, the vice principal, and one of my teachers, all absolutely grilling me on why I think my behavior is acceptable. When I suddenly had a light bulb moment. Earlier that day, I cut my finger on the screw of the chair and didn't tell anyone, so I hadn't yet cashed in my allotted 2 minutes of sympathy when they kissed your boo-boo and got you a bandage. Instead of answering their question, I silently showed them the cut on my middle finger. They went fucking ballistic. One of them was on the phone with my mom in 2 seconds flat, and the principal leaned down inches away from my face and told me that I just said that I hated God, which is absolutely not what flipping someone off means, and was wildly confusing to me, who didn't even know your middle finger meant anything bad in the first place. Second of all, that's just a really freaking unhinged thing to say to a 3-year-old, especially one who grew up Catholic. I mean, okay, luckily, I wasn't like, luckily my parents weren't like super intense about religion. It was more kind of culturally Catholic, if that makes sense. Like their parents were Catholic, or my mom's parents at least. But yeah, that could have ended up badly. That could have ended up way worse. For context, I grew up in Georgia. I was also told later in kindergarten that we couldn't wear hats in school because God already put a roof over our heads and it would be disrespectful, which, okay, go off, I guess. That's also not why that happens. But I guess it just would have been too dark to tell them that they need to see everyone's faces in case someone decides to pew-pew in the school. Okay, so, anyway, I was more just incredibly bewildered than scared. I think it was my first true what the actual fuck is happening right now moments. I didn't even have time to be upset and freak out because I was just so utterly confused. My mom arrived and she just looked so effing irritated. Like, it wasn't fuming anger at me like I expected. She just looked so put out. They called her out of work for this, and she's a middle school teacher. I have no idea what the hell she did to get a sub for her next class in the middle of the school day, but whatever it was, I could tell she didn't think it was worth this crap. They told her I was being suspended, and that they needed her to take me home right then and there. So now not only did she have to leave her work all of a sudden, she couldn't go back because her 3-year-old kid was just dumped back onto her suddenly with no warning. When we got in the car, she asked, "Do you know what your middle finger means?" I said, "No, I just thought it was a normal finger and I wanted them to see the cut on it." And she said, "Of course you don't, you're 3. And she never took me back to that school again. The next notable incident happened when I was in kindergarten. So remember when I said I bit that one kid, but I mostly wasn't violent other than that? Well, sort of. There's one pretty major exception to that. Now, I don't know, you guys probably don't know this, but I'm extremely short. I think in my entire life, I've only met 2 people my age who were shorter than me, a few more the same height, but almost no one shorter. I'm in my early 20s and I'm 5 feet tall. So I remember I was on the playground playing with this big group, repeatedly going down the tunnel slide all at the same time for shits and giggles, which was definitely not allowed, and I definitely at some point ended up pinned under like 3 people and started screaming because I was being asphyxiated, but that's not important, different story. I was the last one to run back up this ladder, and right the hell out of nowhere, this 2nd grade girl just blocked the slide. I tried to just duck under her arm because I thought she was just being clueless and in the way, and I'm small, but she moved just enough to block me again. I ran back to the ladder and she jumped ahead of me and blocked that too, and her friends started laughing. And at this point I was like, okay, this bitch. So I just started wildly running around the platform trying to find an exit, but she was way bigger than me. Okay, and I just want to say, I had no freaking idea who this was. She wasn't even in the tunnel slide group. I didn't remember ever really meeting her. She was 2 grades above me. Literally, we had absolutely zero connection to each other beyond this moment whatsoever. I ended up just standing in front of the slide again, trying not to cry. You know when you're a little kid and everything feels astronomically permanent? I literally felt like I was going to be trapped on top of that playground forever and ever until she decided to set me free. The teachers were a pretty good distance away from the structure because they had to watch the boys playing in the soccer field. I was like, this is it. My life is over. Literally no one can hear me scream. Then she said something along the lines of, "What are you going to do about it?" And I slapped her as hard as I could across the face and dove into the slide when she was distracted. Okay, so, in my defense, when you're extremely small, no one will ever shut the hell up about how short and weak you are. It never even really crossed my mind that it would hurt that bad. I figured a full power slap from my skinny ass would be just like a little swat from a regular person. Just 2 years before that, my teacher had to write an incident report because I was literally blown down by the wind. I was barely even out of the slide when a teacher yanked me up with the girl crying her head off next to me and dragged me over to the sidewalk. I knew I was in deep shit because she didn't bring me to the other teachers to be in timeout. She took me straight inside and called my mom. The girl was walking next to us on her way to get ice, and I saw a long purple bruise on her cheek. I'm not gonna lie, my first thought was, holy shit, I can do that? I mean, I don't want to. I felt bad, but I was very surprised that I could. My dad picked me up because my mom was working, and I'm pretty sure I went to bed straight after dinner. Because that was really fucking unhinged. Okay, now the last one is the shortest, but I still think it's really funny. I was in the middle of elementary school here, so I'm gonna say it was around like 8. The way my school is set up was that we had 2 playgrounds, one pretty close to the building with that field I mentioned, where the kindergarten story happened, and one on top of this hill that was bigger and had the track we used for stuff like the mile run test in PE. 90% of the time, no one's PE class would be going on at the same time as someone else's recess, but there were exceptions. I kind of had friends during this time, but I was in one of those awkward spots where my main friend was drifting apart from me and clearly transferring to a new best friend that just shared her interests more. Or that she thought was cooler, I don't know. Either way, instead of hanging out with people that would actually consistently like me but were kind of picked on, I was pretty much just a weird kid at the bottom of the totem pole in the, quote, popular group. I say quote because it wasn't exactly like that, not in the way movies think of popular cliques. More just the biggest cluster of girls in our grade who weren't into stuff considered weird back then, like anime or drawing furries. Well, okay, the furry thing is still stigmatized. Okay, I'm getting really off track here. The point is, because of that, I would mainly spend recess just wandering around, finding random ways to entertain myself while everyone hung out. Side note though, remind me to make a video about choosing to hang out with people who don't like you because you're afraid of getting picked on, because I feel like no one talks about that. Anyway, I was messing around drawing in a dirt patch when I saw this group of older-looking kids running the track in a cluster. Now, I don't know what the hell possessed me to do this. Okay, actually, I do know. I'll tell you in a minute. I just don't know why I thought it was a good idea. But I went up to the track and patiently waited till they were getting pretty close. Then I leapt in front of them. They freaked out because this random tiny child was just in their way all of a sudden, and I think a couple of them even just straight up tripped over me. A teacher noticed and I got in trouble, but this time it wasn't like I just straight up judo chopped some poor kid, so I explained myself and just got a note sent home. I very shamefully showed my mom the note, and on it the description section was, Elliot jumped in front of Mrs. Chan's, fake name, PE class while they were running laps because he was, quote, pretending like they were the gazelles from The Lion King. I was so upset that I was gonna get in trouble, but my mom just got that weird look on her face when you're trying really hard not to laugh, before shaking it off and forcing herself to look angry with me. Because, you know, when you're a parent, you can't laugh at your kid doing shit they're not supposed to do, no matter how funny it is, because that reinforces the behavior. So she kept it together long enough to ask me why I thought that was okay, and I was like, I mean, I didn't know they were running for a reason. She just gave up after that. She sent me to timeout while laughing her ass off, and I was very confused. So those were some really stupid ways I got in trouble in school. I love hearing these stories from other people because compared to adults, kids are naturally strange and hilarious. The way their brains work is so different from ours that whatever comes out of them at some point is bound to be so unhinged. What was the funniest way you got in trouble when you were little? Leave a comment and like the video if you want. If you like me, help a guy out. And if you really like me, then subscribe. I do these commentary style videos, but I also do animatics. You can also follow my other social media if you want. The links are in the description. Alright, see ya!